This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, well, let's talk about Monday Night Raw that took place last night in Hartford, Connecticut. Kind of a weird show. It felt like it lacked some star power, although we did get a CM Punk promo. It does feel very much post-WrestleMania. This feels like the first real post-Mania Raw that kind of goes back to the business as usual type of vibe. And not a bad thing, but it's a cyclical thing that you expect as you come off of WrestleMania. And we've gone through Backlash now, which is at this point is a throwaway event. And I mean that in the way that it's just the outcomes. No matter, I don't care if they're in France or if they're in Cincinnati, Ohio. I don't care where they are. It just becomes very apparent that they're not going to be changing a whole lot of things coming off of WrestleMania because they made those decisions at WrestleMania. So you know that there's not going to be a whole lot that changes a month later. I mean, why would they have all this build-up, have someone win the championship at WrestleMania only to have them drop at the next PLE? It doesn't make sense, right? But we're not here to talk about Backlash. Well, we're going to talk about Raw, and we're going to talk about Raw in depth in just a minute, which, again, was a weird show. I'd like to welcome some new patrons. Cynthia Acosta. Let's see, Mike Lowry. Thank you guys for joining us here on the WWE Podcast side of things. And I think Kristen Tomes, not Thomas, but Kristen Tomes, I believe is how I pronounce it. Thank you all. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Cynthia. And thank you, Mike, for joining us here on the free side of things. I know that you guys are on the trial, but hopefully you decided to stay with us. And if you don't, cool, but maybe you do. And I hope we earn your business as we move forward through the now King and Queen of the Ring PLE and beyond, because things are going to heat up, as I've said, as we continue moving forward. I mean, we have a plethora of stars who are about to return, meaning in the next few months. Again, Rhea Ripley, hopefully. We have Charlotte Flair, I think, is getting even closer and closer and closer. I think she could be as soon as the next PLE. We have CM Punk, who's getting very close as well. We have Brock Lesnar floating out there. We have Roman Reigns floating out there. We have The Rock floating out there. Drew McIntyre is there, but he's injured, I guess. So there's quite a few, and there's a lot to look forward to if you're interested in that kind of thing with star power and getting the bloodline story revitalized and that kind of thing, because we have SummerSlam to look forward to after that. Well, no, it's the event in Scotland, and then we get to Money in the Bank, and we get to SummerSlam after that. So we got a few PLEs to get through, of course. But again, a weird show on Monday Night Raw. Certainly a big difference in crowd reaction, no doubt about that. Going from Lyon, France, to the drudges, and I mean that respectfully, of course, of Hartford, Connecticut. I'm sure WWE goes from every second there's a chant going on that most of us can't understand to, your typical United States crowd. Things get loud when it gets big, but if it doesn't, people be quiet. And hey, I actually appreciated the crowd. I have to say, while I am a big proponent of loud crowds generally, I was a bit off-put by the France crowd because of just how many chants there were and songs there were that felt like it was just very much a distraction rather than me trying to focus on what's going on in the ring. And I was very focused on much more what's going on in the ring and not so much about what chant are they saying now, right? So it was a nice breath of fresh air coming off of the overwhelmingly loud crowd in France. So it sounds like I'm complaining about the crowd in France. It's for the first time ever, it became a little bit too much for me. Became a little bit too much where it's just like, especially when it's the language barrier that really was a big factor in this too, on top of the fact that that's their culture. It's a different culture over there than it is here with their sports and how they treat their sports and the chance that they have. Much different in the United States than it is overseas, and that's not good or bad. It's just fact. So it was just a little overwhelming for your typical United States crowd and viewer, I think. But anyway, we'll get to maybe a little bit more Backlash talk, but I think we've kind of moved on from Backlash. Last night I do want to apologize. I was not able to speak with Anthony. You guys heard a older current state of WWE. I've just been, and I've been really bad about this lately too, with other guests and co-hosts I'm supposed to have on. I've been so burned out, and I know that sounds cliche. Everyone's burned out. Everyone's got stuff to do. I totally get it, but like that's just for me, and I have been, and so with just family and kids and work and housework and this show, I mean, and lack of sleep. That's all it is. I mean, I've just been totally burned out. So it's a struggle to even do this right now, which sounds super lazy. You just sit in front of a microphone. It's way more than that. Okay, if you don't podcast, then you probably think on the outside, all you have to do is sit in the microphone and talk and press a button. And that's like 5% of it, which I thought it was too, until you actually start doing it and realize that this is like a whole world of work. Again, it's not me trying to get sympathy or pity from anybody. I'm just telling you why things have been like, oh, he's rehashing, or he's putting out an old episode, or he said someone was going to come on tomorrow and he didn't. It's simply burnout. That's all. That's all. I'm not looking for sympathy. Just telling you guys what it is and why things have been like that over the last several weeks. So, all right. Well, now that you've heard my story, my truth, which I hate that phrase. If anybody says my truth. Okay, if anybody actually says that in a serious tone, if anyone says to you, "Well, I want to speak my truth," I mean, you likely don't fit into a lot of my beliefs and value systems. I'll just say that. To say that first of all, there's no such thing as my truth. It's opinions, right? It just means it's been, the word opinion has been substituted for truth, or truth has rather been substituted for opinion. There's the truth, there's the objective truth, and then there's your opinion or your experience. So when someone says my truth, well, you can't have your truth. You can have your experiences you share, you can have your opinions, but you can't transplant opinions and experience for the word truth, because truth exists objectively outside of your experiences. Not to get too deep on you guys. I don't know why I went on that rant, but that phrase has been so overused. My truth. Well, I'm speaking my truth. Okay, you don't have a customized truth to your life. You don't have a personalized truth. Not everyone has their own little package of truth they get to keep, and it's personalized to them, and everyone else lives in their own separate bubbles of truth. That's not how this life works. All right, and I'm sure some of you are probably like, oh, I've heard that, right? Or I say that myself. If you say that yourself, you honestly mean it. I mean, sorry, but can we please move on from that? All right. Oh man, see, this is descending, and we're only 8 minutes into the podcast. Not a good start. All right, so let's go to Monday Night Raw. As before I go off the deep end, and I've already lost listeners. All right, so let's start at the beginning of the show here. We get, of course, a repackaging or a rehashing of Backlash from France, and it was fine. It was just a reminder of what happened. We then have the Judgment Day come out. Dom has his left arm in a sling, and we're shown the brackets for the King and Queen tournaments, King and Queen of the Ring tournaments, and that there'll be 3 televised matches for each tournament. And 2 other matches will be held on live events during the weekend. I love that. When is the last time any house show match had anything of consequence happen at all? You get championship matches, right? And once every 5 years, you'll have an actual championship change hands at a live event, non-televised live event. I think might have happened with the Intercontinental Championship several years ago. I can't remember specifically, but once in a great while, they'll do something like that. But generally, a good rule of thumb is they don't have the live events have no consequence. There's nothing really that significant that happens. And so I really like this. This is a nice change of pace of having actually some consequence going into the match. Some big stakes going into a live event that otherwise has no chance of mattering at all. So pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. But let's continue. Drew McIntyre's out of the tournament due to injury. We got that noted on Raw. And Damian Priest cuts a promo about fans loving Jey Uso, but it didn't matter because he's still the World Heavyweight Champion. Priest said he was still upset about Balor and McDonough interfering in his match with Uso, and Balor said they've been over it 100 times. They're sorry, so they seem to make up. And Balor assumed he would get a first-round bye in the tournament due to Drew McIntyre's injury. And Adam Pearce said, yeah, that's not going to be the case, as he comes out and said your opponent, instead of Drew, is going to be Jey Uso. And they didn't explain why Jey got this opportunity and not anybody else, but I guess he was just handpicked. I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but it is something that's like, well, how did Jey get that spot? Whatever. I mean, kind of weird, but Jey Uso versus Finn Balor for the King of the Ring tournament in the first round anyway. And this match went 13 and a half minutes with Jey Uso beating Finn Balor. And he beat him after a second, or I think maybe 2 or 3 spears that it took, and got the victory. And, fine match. It really was, total, high quality, nothing that you're going to really remember. But as I say with a lot of the matches, it was just 2 professionals going in there and doing what they do. And did it go a little bit long? Maybe. But I'm not going to complain ever about watching Jey Uso or Finn Balor wrestle. Fine. And again, I think this victory also continues to cement some wedges forming between members of the Judgment Day. While they seem to be fine 1 minute, the next minute there's tension. The next minute someone's doing something they shouldn't, right? So, or losing a match. So I think this loss on Finn's part is going to continue to frustrate him and maybe create some barriers that won't be able to be mended, or fences that won't be able to be mended. I'll get it out between himself and the Judgment Day. All right. We got Becky being shown arriving at the arena. Apparently, by the way, does everyone have like a $100,000 sports car they're arriving in? Drew McIntyre had one. CM Punk had one. I mean, does anyone really? Do people really rent those? No way. I mean, like, there's just no way. You think they're going to spend, the wrestlers who have to use their own money are going to spend their money on a rental car that's, $100,000 sports car? No, they're probably renting like probably decent quality vehicles, but not waste their money on silliness like that. But I mean, I don't know. So it's just not a complaint, just something I thought about. So, all right. We then have highlights airing of Gunther beating Sheamus to retain the IC title at the 2023 Clash at the Castle, and we got hyped for their match later in the show. And CM Punk, who pulled in right behind McIntyre outside. Pierce told Punk he was late, which I didn't know that there was a time. Some people just show up when they want to. I didn't know there was. Has anyone ever been called out for being late? And maybe the first time in a long time, someone's like, hey, you're late. I mean, so it's funny. So Punk came out and said he apologized for showing up late. And again, no one would have known you're late, because as long as you're on the show, that's what people care about. They weren't sitting there going, hey, wait, we were told Punk's going to be on the show at 8:30. I mean, I don't know. So it's kind of weird that someone suddenly held to the standards of being late as if it's a typical job. Anyway, he said he was locked inside of WWE headquarters until a few short hours ago, and it dawned on him that Raw was in Hartford. So he drove here to be with, quote, you maniacs, you beautiful maniacs. And he said he came to pick a fight, but McIntyre left. He said he could only stay long enough for McIntyre to come back, which was weird. I mean, Punk was threatening to hold the show hostage, and he said I think he said he has all night and all this stuff. And he gave up in like 5 minutes, and then he's like, oh, I guess Drew isn't coming. Like, well, wait a minute. Like he said that Drew was probably sitting there at a red light reading Twitter and knows that he knew that Punk arrived at the arena, and kept saying that he's going to wait for Drew to come back and wait. And he waited like 5 minutes. He said he's going to hold the show hostage. I mean, how do you say you're going to hold the show hostage and then just proceed to do the exact opposite 5 minutes later? Anyway, he said he would ask the fans what they wanted to talk about, but that's someone else's deal. And he talked about how Drew would be called a 5-tool player in baseball, while McIntyre is just a tool. Punk looked at his watch and said, "We're waiting," and again, he called them names. He said that McIntyre was the pettiest man on the roster, maybe even on Earth, and Punk wondered if McIntyre hates him or hates himself, and said that he's a choke artist, and that McIntyre prayed for this, and now he broke his elbow, and said that he would break McIntyre's face if he shows up, and then he would break his heart. So he said that he looked into the camera and said he would find McIntyre even if he makes him go to Glasgow, Scotland. And that's it. That's it. I mean, there's so much for holding the show hostage. Very, very weird. Again, the theme of the episode again it's just weird. Okay, Ricochet was then interviewed by Kathy Kelly, and he was asked about facing Dragunov in a King of the Ring match, and he was interrupted by Braun Strowman, who hugged him and said it was good to be home. And Strowman said he always stands up after, again, being involved last week in the Judgment Day's business. Strowman said he always stands up for little guys and can't stand bullies. So suddenly we have this giant who's the protector of the smaller man. Is he supposed to be this moral compass that we're all supposed to look at and admire? He's the defender of the little guy. It's just weird. I mean, he went through this crap before he left. I was hoping things evolved a little bit. Maybe it was the hat. I don't know. I'm just, Braun Strowman does not do it for me. I'm not wishing him ill will. I'm not wishing for him to get fired, but it's my own personal preference, and that's it, that I find him extremely one-dimensional. He's a one-trick pony. And, it's got him some success, and good for him. Again, no personal agenda, no hard feelings towards him. Just, it looks like he's a one-trick pony. He's a big guy that can move around. His promos are lackluster. To okay. They've never been bad, but they're just kind of like nothing that you ever remember. And he's taken on this gimmick of the defender of the little guys. And he doesn't like bullies. He's standing up to all the bullies. Okay. He's taking the Be a Star program a little bit too far, I think. I don't know. Braun Strowman to me is just it's just not my thing. That's all. No, I don't. Again, I think he has value to the company. He's a big man and a very athletic big man. So that's a good thing. He's got a great look too. But I don't feel it on a deep level with Strowman. I don't have any emotional connection. I don't care what his character does. I don't care if he wins or loses. And that's how I'm just disconnected completely from his character. Then we got Io Sky versus Natalya in a Queen of the Ring first round match. And we had, Io Sky beat Natalya in 10 minutes and 20 seconds to advance to the quarterfinals of the Queen of the Ring tournament. Nice match here. Natalya getting a little bit of TV time is something new, as of late anyway, especially in some kind of televised match. It feels like it's been a while. So Io Sky got a pretty good reaction here. I think fans are still looking at her WrestleMania performance and remembering that. It was very good. Very good. And I think she's still riding a little bit of that wave. Now, I know Dakota Kai has been the mouthpiece of the group and seems to they're trying to make her the breakout star. But, Io Sky showed us something, and I think fans remember that at WrestleMania. So Natalya loses, as expected. When's the last time Natalya won a match? Televised match? I don't know. All right. So Sky will face the winner of Shayna Baszler versus Zelina Vega, which is going to be held at a live event. And in the ring, Kai said they took Dakota Kai said that they took over 2 years ago and are now putting everyone on notice. Kai said she would stand in for the injured Asuka against Lyra Valkyria, and the fans gave her the what treatment and told Bianca and Jade to enjoy their titles while they can because they will take everything. So fine, Dakota Kai is emerging as a decent promo. Dakota Kai is emerging as some kind of personality, and I think that's a good thing. Now, this group may not have ultimate plans to, be an all-time great team, but for Dakota Kai right now, this is a big opportunity, and for Asuka, I'll say this injury may be the best thing that's happened to her in a while, because in the group, she has never meant less in her career than she has had and has meant while she's with Damage Control. So this injury is probably the best thing to happen to her for her career anyway. So, I didn't know Asuka was injured. That came as news to me and many others. I didn't see Asuka being reported as having an injury until we were told by Dakota Kai that she was injured. So I don't know how serious the injury is. Obviously wishing her the best in the recovery, but I don't know how long she'll be out. It was held under wraps clearly until this story evolved on Raw. All right. We then get Dragunov, who had a really nice workout video, by the way. Really enjoyed that. Versus Ricochet in a King of the Ring tournament first round match. Really nice match here. I think, a very nice debut match on the main roster anyway for Dragunov. And that video they put together was very well done. It shows you how effective videos can be when it's done right. And Ricochet does what he does, which is flip, flop, and fly. I mean, that's just who and what he is. He's the highlight of the night. All these superficial things. It is. Ricochet at least did get a little bit of an interview time here, which was something different. And after the match I think it was on X, we saw some frustration that it's just another loss for Ricochet, which is starting to frustrate him. And I think there could be some kind of character change. If you take a look at the video on X, it's a little bit out of character for him. And I'm all for it. Like Ricochet, we all know what he's capable of in the ring, but ultimately it comes down to what's more important, personality and promo or in ring. I would argue personality and promo, because in ring is secondary. And why is that? Because if you get in the ring and have an awesome match, well, why should the fans, if they have no connection with who and what you are, what you stand for, they have no connection, why should they give a damn if you win or lose? So you could put on the greatest match in the world, but ultimately, if it's about trying to win the match, well, why should fans care if they're not connected to your character? So they have to know who and what you are well before they see you in the ring and have any kind of emotional investment in the match at all. And I think with Ricochet, he still has not gotten past that part in his career. And I think Braun Strowman even called him kid, which would have really annoyed me if I was Ricochet. I'd been like, hey, bro, you're like my age. So that would have really annoyed me. Kind of a demeaning term, really. And I'm no Ricochet defender, as you guys know. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of Ricochet on a personal level, but on a professional level, I would have been like, hey, dude, no, I'm not a kid. All right. So that would have kind of pissed me off. But maybe there's a change in store for Ricochet character wise. Maybe they're actually going to do something with him. I think it'd be about time. Now, the closest they got to actually having some kind of long-term investment in him was the program with Logan Paul, which brought out a little bit more in Ricochet. And I think it did help him short-term, and they just never capitalized and didn't have anything clearly planned past that. But, all right, anyway, the match itself was good. Dragunov hitting a top rope senton for the near fall, hitting Ricochet with repeated chops in the corner, ran the ropes, and then Ricochet popped up and kicked him. We got "This is awesome" chant, and we got Dragunov going for the Torpedo Moscow, but Ricochet hit him with the recoil. That was a great near fall, I have to say. for these two not getting a whole lot of, almost none, live televised matches against one another, they look like they've been working together for like 15 years. Really nicely done here. Dragunov had a small cut on his forehead. He hit another H-bomb and got the victory. So, right person won. It continues to see if Ricochet's character will break. Maybe he will. So Dragunov advances in about 14 minutes. Nice match. And Dragunov is going to face Jey Uso next week in the quarterfinals. In the ring, though, Dragunov did pull up Ricochet and offered him a handshake. Ricochet accepted it. So, you think if there was evidence of a heel turn, it would have been right there where he denies the handshake or shoves him and walks off or whatever. But it was on X. It was done on X, i.e. Twitter, where you saw his frustration, and he said it might even be on his Twitter feed himself. So we'll see. All right, so then we have Sheamus backstage. He spoke about undergoing medical procedures to get back in the ring. He said it's no secret that he doesn't like Gunther. He thinks Gunther, he likes him even less. He said King Gunther would be unbearable, and he said he had bangers with Gunther at Clash of the Castle and WrestleMania, and he would kick Gunther's ass to go on to become a 2-time king of the ring. And we then have some hype for SmackDown and Clash at the Castle from Glasgow, Scotland on June 14th and 15th. So Glasgow, Scotland, boy, hope you're ready for your hometown boy, Drew. It's going to be an interesting show. If Punk is really going to face Drew in Scotland, what does the crowd do? And they're probably going to cheer Drew over Punk. Punk's going to have to just play the heel that night. Obviously, we have a month and some change, but we'll see. All right, we then got Zoe Stark and Ivy Nile in a Queen of the Ring first round match, where Zoe Stark beats Nile in 5 minutes and 20 seconds to advance. This actually is a match that surprised me. And looking at Ivy Nile, does she not look like kind of a cross between Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey? Even her facial expressions, the way her hair is tied back, her kind of martial arts style, her look, her face kind of looks like a cross between them. She looks kind of like a little mini Ronda Rousey. It's weird. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just how my brain perceived her. But this match for Zoe Stark was a really good match. Not just because she beat Nile and to advance, but because I think she showed what she's capable of and reminded you of it. Fans really didn't have anything to think about when it comes to Zoe. They don't know what to associate her with other than the longer than necessary program with Trish Stratus last year. So after that happened, and after Zoe Stark left, or rather Trish left, Zoe didn't have a direction. She kind of felt like a lost puppy. And I think that while I don't know what their plans are for her, getting her in the ring and showing what she can do in 5 to 10 minute matches on a weekly basis would be a way to kind of remind fans of who and what she is, which is a great in-ring wrestler. She's got a nice look. She's a muscular woman, and she showed it here. The stalling vertical suplex, really nice here. A nice moment for Zoe Stark. All right, so we then have Nile next week. We'll face the winner of Lyra versus Dakota Kai, which we all know what that ended up being. Now, there were some clunky moments in this match. That seemed to lose the crowd a bit, but not as clunky as Dakota Kai and Valkyria. So we'll get to that. But, all right. We then got Braun Breaker showing up and confronting Pierce over not being in the King of the Ring tournament, and Pierce invited Breaker to talk about it inside his office. Gable comes out, and we get Gable versus Bronson Reed, where Gable beat Bronson Reed to a no contest in 2 minutes and 40 seconds because Sami Zayn came in and attacked Gable to end the match. So Gable wins, but it's because of a no contest. He doesn't win. Can't win in a no contest. It's too late for me, guys. But Sami Zayn did come in and try to get some revenge here on Gable. And this is a program that's turning out to be mildly fun. I mean, it hasn't exactly taken the center stage yet. And you'd think that in a time where it's post-Mania, it's time to bring up new talent. It's time to elevate guys that may not have gotten that star showcasing before WrestleMania heading into the event. It's time to now, I think, bring up guys like Gable. Give him the spotlight on a weekly basis. He's shown how good he is, right? Okay. We then have, let's see, the Haluva kick on Gable. Reed caught Zayn and hit him with an Uranagi slam, and then Reed executed the same move on Gable and then left the ring. And Reed said he doesn't care about Gable or Zayn. He wants the Intercontinental title. Reed said that it's business to him, and if Pierce wants control, he knows what he needs to do. Okay, so fine. I think anytime Gable's in the ring, it's going to be a good match. So, okay. We then had Gunther delivering a backstage promo about Sheamus in the King of the Ring tournament, and we had Michael Cole after that in the ring introducing the Women's World Champion, Becky Lynch. And this was, again, the theme of the night. Weird. This felt like just a big infomercial for the rest of the roster. Outside of Cole bringing up Becky's bizarre hat at the Kentucky Derby, and she didn't even answer the question. She's like, I got it off Etsy or something. I'm not a fan of her outfits, but that was a talking point from Cole. And then Becky proceeded to talk about all the other women, about Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, Kiana James, Lyra Valkyria. I can't ever get her effing name right. I'm just going to call her Lyra. Lynch said she would not trust James, but she would trust Valkyria. And Cole noted that Lynch and Valkyria both are Irish and battle for the NXT Women's Championship. And Lynch said Valkyria is the most gifted competitor she's been in the ring with. Really? I mean, Charlotte, Sasha, what about Bailey? Really? Out of everyone? Hey, I know what she's doing here, I know what Cole's doing here, and I know what Becky's doing here. They're trying to get over the new talent. It's time for a refresh, and even Becky said that she can feel it. She can feel the change in the air. It just felt kind of lame that she's sitting there just putting everyone else over like a big infomercial. It was, again, I appreciate what they're trying to do, but you don't do it through your champion that transparently. She has respect for everyone. Everyone's the greatest. Everyone's just blah, blah, blah. Stop it. It also sounded, and maybe my hearing's going too. I don't know. Did I hear booing for Becky Lynch through most of her promo? It sounded like kind of a dull booing, not overwhelming. It's kind of like boo. Maybe it was the sound, the acoustics. Maybe something else was going on in the arena. I don't know. Maybe someone who attended live can tell me. I don't know. But it felt to me, it sounded to me like people were booing Becky Lynch. And maybe I'm wrong, but all right. So after she went through the just kind of odd segment with Cole that I don't know what the purpose of it was, Liv Morgan comes out and hey, things lightened up. Morgan took issue with Lynch talking about the Kentucky Derby and the NXT call-ups, yet not mentioning her. She talked about her credentials and boasted that she took out Ripley, and Morgan said it blows her mind that she can't get respect from Lynch, and asked Lynch about the title match she was promised last week, and Lynch said Morgan didn't let her finish. She said she would get her title match at the King and Queen of the Ring. Lynch said that while Morgan ran through her accomplishments, they do not include beating her. And so, yeah, I mean, we continue to build here, and then we get Damage Control coming out and surrounding the ring, and it looks like they're going to attack both Liv and Bailey, who, I'm sorry, Becky, not Bailey, Becky and Liv bounces. Liv is like, they're not my problem, and leaves Becky alone to fight her battle 3-on-1. That was a nice move. Liv has been a really big bright spot for me on Raw. She, like Nia Jax over the last several months, have really surprised me in a good way. I mean, they seem to have found their voice, found, as Liv said this past week, found her purpose. It's like I now kind of understand who and what Liv Morgan is. and I believe what she believes she's saying. Is she the biggest, strongest woman in the world? No. Don't really care, right? It's not about that for me. I really just want to connect with the character, and I think her character has made leaps and bounds over the last several months. And so Morgan still continues to play heel. Becky Lynch continues to still be the babyface here, but I thought I heard some boos for her. Maybe you guys can back me up on that, or just tell me no, stupid, it was this or that, or I don't know what you're talking about. I honestly don't know. But I remember I put a note down. I'm like, what's up with the kind of dull booing for Becky here? So anyway, Becky gets beat down, and Becky eventually gets fight from Valkyria to help clear Kai and Sane from the ring. So, all right. Again, we then have Dakota Kai versus Lyra Valkyria, and this match was, I actually, the finish was sloppy. They didn't seem to have butter smooth chemistry. Not the worst match in the world. It was always okay. With having Dakota Kai lose, it was a little weird. I know they're trying to put the NXT stars on the map. I get it. I understand that's what they're doing, especially as post-WrestleMania. But Dakota Kai is now just coming into her own. She might as well be an NXT call-up based on the attention she's gotten over the last couple of years, based on how they've treated her in the second half of her career since her return at SummerSlam 2022. It feels very much like she is an NXT call-up. So it's weird that, especially with the momentum that she's gotten in the last few months, with her turning on Bayley, it's just kind of weird. Like, I thought Dakota Kai could have used that victory. But all right, so we have Valkyria is going to face Zoe Stark in the second round, and Shayna Baszler versus Zelina Vega and Kofi Kingston versus Rey Mysterio will be held at live events this coming weekend. So not bad matches here, especially Kingston and Mysterio. Should be a fun a match if you're going to be going to any live events this weekend. All right, so let's see. I don't really care about Kofi and Xavier. They had a small segment. Sorry, don't care. Separate shots aired of Sheamus and Gunther preparing for their match. Which was next? Do we then have Gunther with Ludwig Kaiser? No Giovanni Vinci. So he didn't appear during the match, after the match, before the match. Don't know. So, I mean, it's weird seeing or knowing that Giovanni Vinci is not in that group and that he's on his own. I don't know what they're planning on with him, but he, out of all the members, I mean, he's clearly the least interesting. So I don't know if they have some grandiose plans with him. But, I mean, I'm a big fan of Kaiser's work. I think even though they boosted or ousted Vinci, I think Kaiser's really the star here if you're going to look at which one out of Kaiser and Vinci, out of just those two, who could be the bigger star. I mean, clearly Kaiser. So, all right. So this match between Gunther and Sheamus, 21 minutes. Gunther beats Sheamus to advance to the quarterfinals of the King of the Ring. Man, I mean, this was interesting from a couple of perspectives. Number one, the tap out. Sheamus loses via tap out. And I don't hate it. And having a heel beat a big baby face with a submission move is even more, I think, definitive than just pinning them with a knockout finish, whatever, their super kick, whatever finisher they have. It's more impactful to me because it's their own. It's not like as if you're knocked out, you have no consciousness to kick out. Like you don't have a choice. You're laying there and you don't have a choice because you have no consciousness. When you tap out, you are consciously making the decision. I quit this match. I give up. You win. So, especially to a heel, the magnitude of Gunther is a big deal. I'm not saying by any stretch that Gunther was hurt by, or rather Sheamus was hurt by this loss. Absolutely not. I think he's going to be just fine. Sheamus is Teflon at this point in his career too. 20-year career. I think absolutely Hall of Famer. But it's not often you see cleanly a babyface tap out to a heel in the main event of a show, much less anywhere else. I mean, so that was a big deal. And it also seems like, number two, that this may be their final match for a while, as Sheamus took to Twitter after this and said there won't be a number 4, right? His chest was all bloodied, his blood blisters on his chest from all the slaps and chops, which, my God, I don't envy that part of their job. But a really good main event. What do you expect with Gunther and Sheamus? My God, and I think this is the last time that they interact for quite some time. Yeah. But Gunther moving forward, clearly the heavy favorite. We'll see if he continues to push that momentum forward, and he does continue to be the favorite. Of course, we're all still thinking about Brock Lesnar and Gunther. Is that still possible? Does Brock come back at SummerSlam? Does he come back at Money in the Bank? Does he? Yeah, maybe he ends up screwing over Gunther in the finals of the King of the Ring. I mean, there's a multitude of ways to get to it. Maybe they save it for next year's WrestleMania. But I keep thinking of Brock Lesnar, even though I'm sure right now they don't have any plans for him in the near future. Overall, guys, weird show. If you've heard me open the show like that, I'm ending the show like this. Weird show for Monday Night Raw. Not great, not bad, just okay, I thought. And as we move forward here, we're going to start to think about King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring. What could that mean? Does King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring mean anything anymore? I think they said it was, the 28th annual or the 28th time, not annual because it's not annual, but the 28th King of the Ring tournament and the second women's tournament that last year was known as the Queen's Crown because WWE somehow couldn't get themselves to say Queen of the Ring. Very weird. But I think that you have to look at, what does this mean for the King of the Ring and Queen? Does it mean that they're going to focus on these two individuals moving forward? Does it have any value at all other than just bragging rights? Other than just an ego boost? Is it a sign to fans of who they're going to push next? Like, what does the King and the Queen of the Ring winners mean? Like, if you win that tournament, what does that mean for your career outside of being able to put it on your resume? So to me, that's the bigger picture I'm looking at, because they always make a big deal. Oh, it's King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring. Okay, so great. They win these imaginary titles. They get to carry around a scepter, suddenly adopt a British accent, call people their subjects. And it's also usually designed for heels to win, much like Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is also a match designed for heels to win. Not saying for sure that a babyface is going to win, but those two tournaments or matches and tournaments specifically are tailored for heels to win. So we'll see what happens here, but that'll do it for my Raw review, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to continue to listen ad-free, if you're just listening to this podcast and you're like, oh my God, I wish I'd do anything to get rid of the ads. Well, you can do that at patreon.com/WWE podcast. You can head on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe there for a 7-day free trial if you'd like. And tomorrow is the mailbag. So send in your questions, guys. I'll try to get to them as I do. I try to, even split it into a couple of parts. We'll see if I can continue to do that and get all of your emails and calls in. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.